Thank you very much, Your Highness, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Also, I would like to thank the Foundation for the invitation to be here at this meeting today. It's a great pleasure, a great honor for me. In Europe, diabetes is a common disease, as it is in all parts of the world. Here you see how diabetes increases with age, so that of the people who are over 70 years of age, approximately 15 to up to 20% have diabetes. And this is those diabetic patients who are known and diagnosed. And this is only a part of the diabetic patients. But this age relation is very important. But of course, you may ask what happens every other part of the world, and not only Europe. And luckily, now we have a very good database organized by the International Diabetes Federation, which is an international organization for diabetes, called the Diabetes Atlas. And we have a data for every single country for the world, estimated how many diabetic patients there are. And here you see the countries, the top 10, and you realize very quickly where these countries are located. There are two hotspots among these 10s. One is in the Pacific, these small Pacific islands. They have a very high prevalence of diabetes, and the other part is then this part of the world, the Middle East. Up to 25% today of adult populations here have diabetes. And the situation will not become better the years to come. You see here that the numbers are staying about the same when we have estimated from the data that have been collected in a number of countries, and also that the countries seem to be remaining the same that are among the top 10. This is unfortunate, and obviously something should be done to change this trend. Here you see different regions of the world, Africa, Europe, Middle East, North Africa. This is the North America, South Central America, Southeast Asia, Western Pacific. And here you see how big the increase in the number of people with diabetes is from 2011 to 2030. In Africa, 30% increase. Here in the Middle East, North Africa, over 80% increase. It's an incredible number of individuals who will be treated with diabetes. And if you look at the numbers here in the world, we have now about 400 million people with diabetes, and it will be over 550 million people. Who can afford to treat all these people? And as I will show you later on, who can treat all the consequences of diabetes that will happen over the years when the patients have been suffering from the disease. Now, this is a kind of summary of the global burden. So there are a lot of diabetic patients, and the numbers are increasing, and they are increasing everywhere in the world. Not only in this part of the world where the increase has already taken place dramatically, but in every country the numbers are increasing. And at the moment, 80% of the diabetic patients actually live in the low and middle income countries, so that's kind of a double burden for these individuals, for these countries. So there will be about 5 million people dying from diabetes every year in the world. That is a dramatic number, and the cost, almost 500 billion US dollars are spent for treatment of diabetes. And that is mainly to treat the complications of diabetes, consequences of diabetes, not the disease itself. So I mentioned that we know very well the numbers of people who have been diagnosed with diabetes. But when we go to the populations and screen individuals who don't know that whether they have a diabetes or not, we suddenly realize that in most parts of the world, like in Africa, 80% of people don't know that they have diabetes. In this part of the world, 50% of people don't know they have diabetes. And why? Because diabetes doesn't cause any symptoms in the beginning. First 10 years, nothing. You may feel a little bit tired, that's all. And you don't know that you have a disease. And this is a big problem, that the disease is progressing and people don't know that they have this disorder. Now, what is the similarity between diabetes and Alzheimer's disease? See here that a list that I put together. They have a similar lifestyle, risk factors, and these diseases are increasing very steeply with age. And then the diabetes is an independent risk factor for Alzheimer's disease, and also for other forms of dementia, like a vascular dementia. As I mentioned, they both have a very long asymptomatic preclinical phase, and they also have a lot of other disorders associated with these conditions. And then they reduce life expectancy and especially quality of life. Now you saw from Professor Mia the risk factors for and protective factors for Alzheimer's disease, and here I have listed the factors associated with diabetes, and they really are approximately the same. Obesity, physical inactivity being a big risk factors, but also other aspects of diet. Some of them are protective, some of them are risk factors. So there we are. When we are dealing with a chronic disease prevention, we actually have to pay attention to the factors that are approximately the same. And if I would take the cardiovascular disease or many types of cancer, the risk factors are the same. Now, obesity is the most important risk factor for diabetes. From Finland, we have monitored the risk factors since the 1970s. Every 5 years, we have carried out a study in a random sample of the population. And we know what actually has been going on. You see here that the body mass index is going slowly up all the time, higher, higher, higher. And then we see also that the frequency of diabetes goes up, more in men than in women. That is typical in Europe. In this part of the world, it's slightly different. The women do have probably at least as high risk as men, maybe in some countries higher. Now, what happens in the future, we don't know yet, but we hope that we can turn this trend downwards, and that this also influences the prevalence of diabetes. Now, when we are dealing with diabetes and Alzheimer's disease, from this slide you see when the first publications appeared around about this topic. 1995 was the first Japanese study published. And after that, gradually there have been more information coming out. Some of the studies have not found the association, but the majority of the studies have found the association. This is typical for medical research. There are certain reasons how studies have been carried out where no association has been found. But in general, more and more information is there, and it is quite clear that the association is there. And what happens with patients who have diabetes? What they have is that they have cognitive scores, scoring systems when we are doing a testing. The lower the perception, speed, the verbal memory, and semantic memory, and all the kind of executive functions, they all are influenced by diabetes, and these are the markers of dementia in diabetic patients. So there's not only single one, but rather global. Many aspects of human cognition are influenced by diabetes. And then one thing which is important is duration of diabetes. Unfortunately, today, younger and younger people and more young people are getting diabetes, diagnosed with diabetes, and that means that they will have a longer duration of the disease, and therefore complications like dementia is more likely to happen. So a few studies, that is a study from England, 5-year follow-up of over 5,000 clerical people working for the British government in Whitehall, and they found that for men there was 2.5-fold risk of dementia associated with diabetes, and almost 2-fold for females. Then there were studies also to look at the different type of findings. What is typical, like Professor Mia pointed out, that there is atrophy in brain that has been found with the diabetes, and there are different parts of the brain where this atrophy has been identified, and also that the simple measurement of glucose tolerance, how well you are actually managing to get rid of sugar from blood, is also associated with these atrophies. Another study from the Netherlands, they looked at also about 6,000 people, older individuals, and they found in the same way as in the British study that there was about 2-fold relative risk of Alzheimer's disease. In this study here, they looked at the cognitive impairment in persons with diabetes who didn't suffer any cerebrovascular disease like stroke, and there was 1.6-fold increase in the risk. But then if people also developed a stroke, that is a brain infarction, then the risk doubled. So this is important to realize. The Swedish study from Stockholm again pointed out that there were about 2-3-fold risk for vascular dementia, and clearly also for Alzheimer's disease. So different countries have carried out the studies where they have followed individuals, and systematically the data show that diabetes is increasing a risk of dementia, whether it's a vascular dementia or whether it's Alzheimer's disease. Both forms seem to be associated. And to prove the point that it is really high sugar concentration in blood, we are using a so-called hemoglobin A1C, which is the measure of blood glucose concentration, and at the different levels of this you see here that the risk of cognitive decline increases, and when you have a high, diabetic patients usually have over 7, then it can go over 11-fold the risk of cognitive decline over time. So it seems that the blood glucose is important for this risk. Very recently, last week, there was a publication from the United States showing again the average glucose level and the risk of dementia here in the people without diabetes. But even in people without diabetes, the blood glucose level seem to be associated with the risk. And another recent study from Finland pointed out that it is really when the diabetes is diagnosed early, here said midlife, then the risk goes up very strongly. But in the late life diabetes, the risk is not so much increased. So that is also a good news that if we can postpone the onset of diabetes later, then the risk of dementia is lower. But unfortunately, as I said, more and more young people are developing diabetes today due to lifestyle. We had one study of the elderly in Finland where the very thorough investigation was done for the development of Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia, even using so-called neuropathological examinations of those people who had deceased. And here you see that both Alzheimer's disease over the years increased very steeply in diabetic individuals, much more than in non-diabetic, and here the same for vascular dementia. So when I said that in the elderly, it may be that diabetes is not affecting so much, but still it really does something, but also in the older people. But the younger onset cases have a bigger risk than older onset cases. So in this study, I just like to point out that they were mainly women, and about 1/4 had diagnosed with diabetes, and 65% of these people who had been followed from the baseline when they were 85 years old actually had a dementia before they died. So it's extremely common in the older people. And like other studies here, we also could identify that those people who had diabetes, they had a very high proportion of people who had a cerebral infarct, stroke during the follow-up. 60% altogether, while it was about 40% in non-diabetic individuals. And then when looking at the risk of dementia, then you see here how the risk was approximately doubled after taking into account other factors here. Now, what is the reason why people with diabetes have problems with their cognition and they have a cognitive decline? We don't really know very well, because this whole issue has been studied only less than 20 years. Maybe during the last 15 years we have had studies, and not very many studies. But we know that there certainly is due to cerebral vascular disease, which is very common in diabetic patients, all kind of cerebrovascular disorders, not necessarily acute stroke, but milder, so-called milder forms of cerebrovascular disease, and they can influence various aspects that increase the risk of dementia. And then the glucose itself has a toxic effect. High glucose level is toxic, that we know. And this is something probably which is the most important. But then there are also other things that are being investigated. And I guess that during the next 5 years or so, we will understand much better how diabetes and glucose influence the cognition and the risk of dementia. Now, if we put together the sort of cartoon how the whole thing develops, we have here diabetes, we have other diseases like hypertension, but we never can forget the genetic predisposition either for diabetes or for dementia. We have mechanisms, as I said, the brain infarcts, and we have a glucose toxicity, all kind of smaller vessel problems in the brain, and then we have insulin. Insulin is a hormone which is excreted after we are eating and our glucose levels in blood go up. Insulin takes the blood to muscle and other tissues, and it has also its own influence, so that we have many different things that we have a vascular, so-called premature aging, and then coming to the beta amyloid accumulation, Alzheimer type dementia. So there are different pathways how this disease can develop, so that not every individual will develop from diabetes to dementia in the same way if they progress that way, but there are alternative pathways. Now I turned a little bit tune and I tell you good news. And the good news is that we have shown that type 2 diabetes can be prevented. It's about 10 years ago we published an article where we had the study where people who had a high risk of diabetes received a very simple lifestyle management, lifestyle advice. Healthy diet, physical activity, and individual advice. We have a so-called intervention group, individually tailored, and a control group who received the general healthy advice and came to the examinations. So what happened during this study then was that during the years we could demonstrate that there was 58% lower risk of diabetes in this intervention group compared with the control group. The scale doesn't really show it very clearly, but that was striking, that 58% of the cases of diabetes over the couple of years could be prevented by healthy lifestyle advice. Now the question is that, is it really applicable to other populations, other countries, and so on? And now we have data from several other studies. We had this 58% reduction. Americans came up with 58%, Dutch people 58%, UK 58%. It's a magic number that we can prevent diabetes. It's incredible. A little bit less in the numbers in China and India, but clearly also a preventive effect. And all of them used a very similar healthy lifestyle advice. But what was this healthy lifestyle advice? I showed you that there were healthy diet, physical activity, and so on. Actually, in our study, we used 5 different targets. And when people did not change anything in their lifestyle, they did not reach a single target, 35% of them became diabetic in 4 years. That's the progression, how it goes in the high-risk individuals. But those people who achieved 5 or 4 out of 5 nobody became diabetic. There was 100% protection if people really change their lifestyle. And that's the whole point. It's not enough to change one thing. You have to look at the lifestyle pattern as a whole. And this has now been repeated in a number of studies for diabetes and also for cardiovascular disease. It works in the same way. And I believe that the finger study that you heard about and the other studies will show the similar findings for dementia as well, hopefully. The other thing we could demonstrate was that people who, there is a line missing, but the more people lost their body weight, here is about over 7% body weight reduction, then the risk of diabetes was very low. And the less you reduced your body weight, the higher was risk. So it's a linear. The more you can lose your body weight, the better it is for diabetes risk. And then we come to the issue of the healthy lifestyle and dementia. And from our study that we have carried out with Mia, I just show you one thing, and that is the Healthy Diet Index that demonstrates very nicely what actually happens. And you see here, what is a healthy diet? There are many things that can be in a healthy diet. Beneficial components here. You see vegetables, rye bread, fish, coffee, healthy fats in diet, and then there are unhealthy components and so on. And the bottom line here is that when people, when we calculated the score of them, when you had a adherence, high adherence, more than 8 healthy dietary items, the risk of dementia went down by about 90% for total dementia, and with taken Alzheimer's dementia alone, more than 90%. Fantastically strong result that combination of several healthy items in diet is a critical issue. It's not that you have one thing healthy and the others unhealthy. Many people say that, well, if I practice one unhealthy habit, I can compensate it with the one healthy habit. It's not that way. You really have to think the total what you are eating, how you are behaving, and how you are managing your life. As Mia pointed out, there are issues of physical activity, social activities, and other activities that need to be added here. But in principle, the prospect is good. I believe that in the coming years, we'll be able to tell you very nice stories about the success in preventing dementia, as we have been so successful in showing that diabetes can be prevented. Thank you very much.